بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Okay, so inshallah I'm going to record this session since we don't have anybody, and let me just change this into bigger as well. So right now I will not know when somebody comes in, but my purpose here is inshallah to record this session, and we start off with the kitab so that we can carry on with our lessons here. Just some things, housekeeping beforehand. We have 33 pages that we have to complete in this this semester. We have approximately about 25 sessions or 25 classes, and one of the class I might actually skip out because I have a prior engagement. Nonetheless, our target is to complete 33 pages in this semester, which means we have to at least go about maybe 1.5 page or 2 pages per session. So that will be our target. As long as we can complete 1.5 page or more, we're good to go. The chapters or the kitab that we are looking at in Sharh al-Wiqaya is Kitaab al Zakat. It's inshallah it's not going to be as difficult as the Tahara sections or some of the previous sections, but because it is a field of fiqh which is very much in need of today's contemporary understanding. We are going to look at a lot of terminologies and try to see how they apply to us in our time as well. All right, so continuing from here, let me let me grab this. All right, Kitaab al Zakat, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Chapter with regards to the zakat. Understand that in Arabic the zakat is inclusive of the sadaqah, as well as zakat is inclusive of the mandatory zakat, as well as any kind of sadaqatul fitr and things like that as well, which is why those chapters are going to come under this zakat as well. He starts off by saying, هي لا تجب إلا في نصاب حولي فاضلا عن حاجته الأصلية. That Kitab Zakat is not compulsory, not binding, except in case of a Nisab, which is Hawli, and is in excess of the condition, the hal of it is that it is in excess from the Hajatul Asliya. Now, a lot of terms here that we need to first look at. So let's start talking. Kitab al Zakat. First and foremost, he has brought a zakat after the salah. Now, understand zakat is from among the ibadat of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon us. Just like after the shahada, the very first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory was the salah. In order to make the salah, there was a requirement, condition that the tahara must be completed. So the tahara was before the salah could be performed. So we did the Kitab al-Tahara, and then thereafter the very first obligation of ibadah is the salah. So we went through all the ahkam of the salah. Thereafter, now we have the other pillars of Islam. But while we address that, also understand that there are two types of ibadah, which can actually come. Some ulama have said that there are 3 types of ibadah, but essentially there are 2 types. One is badani and one is mali. Badani meaning you have to utilize your own body, your physical aspect of the ibadah within it. So for example, like salah and the Sawm, these are something in which you exert from your physical being. So these are ibadat which will use your physical strength. Then you have something like zakat. In zakat, you are not being asked to run a marathon. What you are being asked is to spend your wealth. So your wealth is mal, and this kind of ibadah then will be mali ibadah. So these are the 2 types, the badani and the mali. right? So if that's the case, then what's the third one? The third one, for example, the hajj. In the hajj, not only that you are going to spend money to get to Makkah al Mukarramah, the haram, and all those places. Not only you're going to spend the mal to get there, but also you are going to be spending exertion of your body as well. So that this third type of ibadah is badani wa mali, right? It has physical exertion involved in it, as well as it has your wealth being utilized as well. So the third form of ibadah is basically a subsection of both of those different ibadahs, where it utilizes both of them, right? So in preference, we have seen that the first is the badani ibadah, right, for the salah, and the Sawm comes. So salah came first, then the mali ibadah, that's why the zakat came. So now he has brought Kitaab al Zakat. After that, he goes on to say, hiya la tajibu, it is not compulsory. Now this tajibu is not referring to the fardiyah, because we already know the zakat has been made fard from the nas'a qat'i. So and wajib, we know that it requires some form of a zanni dalil. Not if something is qat'iyud dalala, qat'iyud sabut, something from the nusus, then that is going to be fard and not wajib. So this is not referring to the istilah of usulul fiqh. Rather, it's just referring that it does not become wajib, it does not become liable upon an individual in this particular case, right? And not necessarily mentioning that it is not fard or it is not wajib. Okay, so he continues, hiya la tajibu illa fi nisabin. What is nisab? Nisab is that portion, that level of nisab is that level of wealth which will enable, or if a person is under that, he will not be paying the zakah. So it is the threshold. But how are we going to define this threshold? And that is the question. Are we going to say that this nisab is a threshold which basically excludes those below it from giving the zakat? Or is this zakat, is this nisab the threshold beyond which zakat becomes wajib? So how are we going to define this nisab? And people normally ask, like, oh, what do you mean by this nisab? So are we going to say this is the poverty line, if you are under it you cannot give zakat, or if you are over it you have to give zakat? Now let's look at the condition. Is there any possibility, if the person has a nisab that is under the nisab line, and he still has to give zakat, even if it is something, he has gold nuggets in his hand, but they don't reach the level of the nisab, it is not wajib on him to make the give out the zakat? So there is no condition, or there is no situation where he will be required to pay the zakat as long as he is under the nisab. But if he is above the poverty line, or above this threshold and benchmark, and he has gold, there is a possible scenarios, not one but many, where he, despite having the wealth, it's not becoming wajib on him to actually dispense the zakat. So if we are going to define this nisab in terminology, the best would be the threshold under which the zakat is not eligible. That would be the best comprehensive way of mentioning it. But you can always give an explanation of what it is by mentioning that even if you have more than the nisab and the other conditions of the zakat are fulfilled, that there are zakatable assets and there is no liabilities which are essentials, then you are going to be considered as a person who has to who may not dispense the or person who has to dispense the zakat. And if there are loans and liabilities which diminish the wealth, no matter how much it is, then it is quite possible that you may not give out the zakat. So he says here, la tajibu illa fi nisabin hawliyin. Hawl is referring to 1 year. right? So basically haul is supposed to be a time period, right? And this time period is specific to one howl, as that is one circle. When we are looking at the entire year, this howl will refer to us. Why we are attributing the howl as 1 year? Because of the differences that we can encompass, and then we can look at the ups and downs throughout the year. We're going to discuss that later on, inshallah, when the muhashil is going to talk about it. Fadilan, excess of, and hajatihil asliya, from the hajat al asliya. While we are going to discuss that in the sharh as well, but hajat al asliya is what? There are two types of hajat al asliya. Or rather, hajat al asliya in itself is anything void of which, absence of which, is going to lead to the destruction of a person. Now this destruction could be in two different ways. Either it's going to be haqiqi, so you need oxygen. Oxygen is your hajat al asli, your air. So if the air is not there, you are going to die. Actually, literally, you are going to die. Or it could be hukmi or taqdiri hajat al asliya. So for example, debts. Now it is a common metaphor and common way of mentioning, oh, I have so many debts that I feel that I'm drowning, right? And I feel like committing suicide because I cannot come out of it. Because debts and everything, they bring about a zilla, they bring about the situation where you get depressed in having to pay off those debts, and you feel that you have been enslaved under those debts. So those are also considered when we are going to be discussing with regards to the person who will be paying out the zakat. Knowing these terms, now we can go forward and start looking at the ibarat. i'lam, know, anna zakata, that the zakah la tajibu illa fi nisabin namin. A completely new term has come now. Know that the zakat is not going to become wajib except in nisab. This nisab is same nisab that he is talking about over here, right? But now he is also mentions another sifa for it, that then this nisab has to be something that is nam as well. What is a namin? Nam comes from namu, that means something that increases. So nisab has to be of such a wealth, such mal, or such a commodity that is increasing in its value, that brings about an increase in the value, not something that itself is perishable and it's going to reduce and everything as well. We're going to discuss a little bit further about this namin as we go along. All right. So he says wal hawlu, and also the year. This whole hawl is same as hawli, right? Wal hawlu, and a full circle, a full year. What is that hawl? Wa huwa al mumakkinu min al istimna. Hawl is any that circle that is going to bring about the tamkeen, the ability of for that nisab to actually grow. Now imagine you have huge slabs of ice, and you have in your winter time you have stored them, and you don't really have freezers and everything, but now is that going to become something that is going to be namu, something that is going to increase in value? Yes, in winter it's increasing because it's jamid, it's frozen. As soon as the spring comes, it will start to melt, and this commodity can't really last you for the whole year. So this commodity is no longer possible for it to benefit you throughout the year. It will make a difference when you are going to put them into the cold storage, right? That's going to be different, but just for the understanding sake. Now, so why we have done this? Wal hawl huwa al mumakkinu min al istimna. The hawl has been set to 1 year now, because this 1 year is going to bring about or give you the possibility of actually getting this quality sifa of istimna this namu taking more out from that commodity. لاشتماله لاشتماله على الفصول الأربعة. Okay, now this fusul is not classes, not 4 classes. Okay, because of it being inclusive, or it includes all the 4 seasons, right? All the 4 seasons. And why are we talking about all the 4 seasons? Because there are going to be commodities and there are going to be wealth which are going to change in their value and change in their types, as we discussed about the ice part, or even the cattle and everything. In winter they may become sluggish or become bulky because of their eating and no exercise. In summer they are going to run about, they're going to become more lean, and depending on the market and everything, people are going to give more value for certain commodity in the winter and certain commodity in the summer. So والحول هو ممكن من الاستمناء لاشتماله على فصول الأربعة. Right, so because it is inclusive of all 4 of the seasons. والغالب فيها تفاوت الأسعار, and what is more predominant in this aspect is that throughout the year the as'ar, the si'ar, jam'u si'ar, meaning rates, the prices, they are going to go up and down. There is going to be fluctuation throughout the year, but once you are able to look at the whole year, that whole year cycle will be repetitive over the long term. And so this one whole year is going to be a best way, a best cycle for you to establish establish an average on it. Okay, for uqim maqamun nama. So what have we done then? We have made the haul a substitute for nama. So the original quality that we were looking for in regards to the commodity was that it must be namin, it must have namu. But because that would have made things very, very difficult, as we're going to talk about that just in a while, we have opted for making a substitute or something else that can stand in its place so that we can calculate it properly, and that is the haul, the year. So now we are going to look at your condition in the beginning of the year and condition at the end of the year, and then we are going to assess whether the nisab has actually been there and it has had growth and everything, and it is zakatable or not. So once you have established the hukm on the substitute, now فَأُدِيرُ الْحُكْمُ عَلَيْهِ, then فَأُدِيرُ الْحُكْمُ عَلَيْهِ, the ruling is now going to be applied onto this, right? That is the substitute. هذا هو المذكور في الهداية, and this is Alamat of Tazani has mentioned in Al-Hidayah. Now obviously our Muhashi has ishkal on everything, right? So he brings in وَفِيهِ النَّظْرِ, and there is an ishkal, there is a contention with this. What is the contention? لأن هذا يقتضي, because establishing this substitute and saying فأقيم مقام النما فأدير الحكم عليه هذا هو المذكور في الهداية, this statement now لأن هذا يقتضي, what does this bring about? This demands أنه إذا حال الحول على نساب تجب الزكاة, that when the year finishes or when the year comes round, automatically the zakat is going to become wajib upon this nisab, سواء وجد النما أو لم يوجد. Okay, regardless of whether there was an actual increase or no increase, right? Because that's the whole fruit over here, that's the whole thamara over here, that kama fi safar, Like in the case of the issue of suffer, you remember in the case of suffer when we were trying to calculate what is the musafatu suffer and everything, and we said that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us qasr during the suffer? Oh, because the suffer has mushaqqa in it, it has difficulty in it. But then we said then that musafatu suffer, that is 3 days and 3 nights, or and its furu'iyat later on, now that became the substitute for the mushaqqa. So فَإِنَّهُ أُقِيمَ مَقَامَ مُشَقَّةٍ, the suffer itself became in the place of mushaqqa. فَيُدَارُ الرُّخْصَةَ عَلَيْهِ, then the rukhsa of making the qasr started establishing with the suffer and not with the mushaqqa. سواء وجد المشقة أم لا. لكن ليس كذلك. However, that is not the case, right? And he's talking about the zakat over here. That is not the case. Whether we find the nama or not, that does make that will be an actual aspect over here, right? Just because the year passes doesn't automatically mean that we have to give a zakat on the nisab. He says, بل لا بد مع الحول من شيء آخر. Rather, it is important that along with the passing of the year, other sharait have to be fulfilled as well. For example, وهو ثمانية, that like the samaniya, that it being having its own integral inherent intrinsic value in itself. Kama fi thamanain, like the two thamana khalqi that we have, ay al-dhahab wal-fidda, that the gold and the silver, they in themselves they have this intrinsic value of being the thaman, and hence they become zakatable. Or as-sawm, or for example the sa'ima kama fil an'am, the aspect of sawm or sa'ima, that they are self-grazing, they graze on the pastures without having the need for the farmer to actually feed them, because if he feeds them, he is going to go and get the grass and he is going to do some kind of an expenditure on all those aspects. Whereas a sa'ima, a self-grazing cattle, is going to be grazing on its own. When the cattle self-graze, that's sa'ima. When you feed the cattle, that's ulufa, right? So all those have to be kept in mind. So he's mentioning that these factors also play a role whether the person is going to have to pay zakat or not. So the ibara to say that, oh, now the hukam is going to rely upon only over here, the hukam is going to rely only upon the hawl, that is incorrect. And he gives another example, أو نية التجارة, نية التجارة في غير ما ذكرنا. So many other commodities are going to be there. You have to have the intention of actually trading with them for them to become the stock and trade, right? And then you are going to apply whether the value of it, so that you can give the zakah. حتى لو كان له عبد لا للخدمة. So much so that a person has a slave, but this slave is not for khidmah. Oh, darun la lissukna, or he has a house but it's not for living in. And at the same time, walam yanwi tijara, he has not made any intention of actually selling them off, so they are not stock in trade, right? So when that happens, la tajibu fiha zakat, zakat will not be applied, they will not become zakatable assets for him in his calculation. So here it is where it stands. The person can have a commodity which he can use for himself, or the person can have the commodity which he is going to sell. If the person is going to have the commodity which he can sell, or he can trade with it, then automatically it is a stock and trade, and it has a situation that it's over the year it's going to buy and sell, or its value is going to go up and down, and then that means it's going to become the nisab and namin, right? But if it's not, and you only have a commodity that is sitting by you, then it is not going to increase or decrease in its value. It's just sitting there, right? We are not going to talk about like, oh, the thing becomes what do you call, antique and increases in value and things like that. No, or the antiqueness of the value of the commodity, even if you have al hidayah, the original manuscript with the handwritten of Alamat Taftazani, which a person would be willing to pay $1,000,000 for it, when it is sitting in your bookshelf, it is just that, it's hidayah, it's a makhtut of hidayah. Only when you place it onto the sell and you actually sell it into the market, you will realize its value in the more, and then you will be paying zakat on that. So his ishkal is kind of valid here. So he said, لا تجب فيها الزكاة فيهما الزكاة وإن حال عليهم الحول, that zakat will not become wajib on them even though the year would have passed. And looking at the previous ibara, فأقيم مقام النما فأدير الحكم عليه, that the hukm is going to revolve around whether the haul passes or not. This is what Alamat Taftazani is saying. So he says it has an ishkal. But one jawab is there, yeah, but that's a very dry reading of Alamat Taftazani's statement. Anyone who is reading Arabic, he understands what Alamat Taftazani in Hidayah is trying to say. He is simply saying that because we are not pegging everything on the namu of the actual commodity, that its value increasing or decreasing, it is difficult, it would have become completely really difficult or really impossible to track the increase and the decrease. So imagine you have a commodity and its value increases and decreases every day. So you, like stocks, you are now looking at its value every day going up and down, and it happens to be, the commodity happens to be right at the edge of the nisab, at the benchmark. So as soon as it goes up, you have to record, okay, I have more than nisab today, right? Tomorrow it goes down, you have to cancel it out, okay, I have less than nisab today, right? So if we were to look at only the namin, nisab in namin aspect, it would become really difficult. And this is one of the biggest concern that people who come to me and ask me about the zakat calculations today in contemporary times, they are confused about it, because they are thinking that it has to do with the value of that day throughout the year. And because it has to do with the throughout the year, if today my cash inflow increases to more than the nisab, suddenly I have the nisab, now I am eligible to give the zakat. Now this money, it has to sit by me for another whole year before I can give zakat on it. Or if it decreases down, oh, I'm going into deficit now and I don't need to pay zakat on it. And they keep on getting confused in this that they don't realize that after a year or so, they're still not paying zakat. So, which is why the fuqaha said, فَأَقِيمَ مَقَامَ النَّمَا. Same thing was happening. Who is going to decide in case of safar what is mushaqqa? It is relative. And a person, or we talked about it, a king who is being ridden on a howdaj or something like that, a carriage throughout the country land, his mushaqqa is not there, but he's still on safar, right? So here we are saying the same thing, that if we are going to establish everything onto the nam or the namu part, then obviously it's going to become very difficult. So we have to establish something else in its place, and that is the haul. Now just because we establish haul as a substitute for the namu does not mean that the other sharaits fall off. Sahib al-Hidayah is not mentioning that. He is just mentioning that udirul hukmu alay yani al-haul la nam, right? La numa, not on the nama. It's revolving around the haul now. This is what it means, and that's the ishkal he has placed, and that's the jawab we can give. Going further, second page now. All right, so now we've done all of it till here, right? Nisab and the haul. Now we're talking about the second part of this sentence. So he says, وَلَا بُدَّ, and it is necessary, أَن يَكُونَ, أن يكون what? أن يكون النصاب, right? أن يكون فاضلا عن حاجته الأصلية. Okay. So now he says, and it's important that the nisab you are going to be calculating about and all the commodities and everything that is beyond the hajat al-asliya. And we talked about what is hajat al-asliya, that is needed for the basic living, right? So he says, he gives examples, kal at'ima, like the food, wa thiyab, and the clothing, wa athar al-manzil, right? And wal athath al-manzil, and the items of the home. Now a person can keep on becoming like really dry and start asking like, oh okay, at'ima is understandable, wa thiyab, but that would mean only one clothing, because a person can live his life in one clothing. He doesn't need another clothing. So what we are mentioning is that although these are hajat al-asliya, but these things as a whole, they make the life, right? If a person does not have clothings, his life is going to become extremely difficult. It's not about one clothing or more clothing. It is about when the dispensation has been given to one juz, it has been given to the other of the same juz as well, right? So kal at'ama wa thiyab wa athath al manzil, and the items of the home that you are going to be using, wa dawab al rukub, and the items of conveyances, wa abid al khidma, and the servants for the slaves for the servants, and this is no longer applicable to us. wa duwar is sukna, and the houses for living, right? وَالصَّلَاحِ يَسْتَعْمِلُهَا, and the weaponry that a person will be using, وَالْآلَاتِ الْمُحْتَرِفَةِ, and all those tools that he will be using to carry out his things, his duties, his work and everything. وَالْكُتُبِ لِأَهْلِهَا, and the books for its family. وَالْكُتُبِ لِأَهْلِهَا. Now, so if I have books in my bookshelf, but they're not mine, I have to give zakat on it, right? So what is he referring to? This is, in my understanding, although you can see the hashia over here, how he explains it, and it's perfectly fine what he is referring to. وَالْكُتُبُ لِأَهْلِهَا, meaning the person who will be utilizing these books for his regular life, because that's what he has brought it for, حاجته الأصلية, right? So these kutub will be for the mudarris. A person has his own books and everything, so he can make mutala, he can do that, so there are for him. Other than that, what would be the situation now? If we look at the hashia now, he says لا زكاة فيها على الأهل وغيرهم, that there is no zakat when it comes to books. There's no zakat on the ahl of it and others, because books, there is no zakat on books, right? Right, likoniha ghayr namiya, because these are not ghayr nami. So my point over here is, no, books can become nami as well if they are stock and trade, a person selling the books. So he owns the books at that time, but it's still stock and trade. So let's assume that what the Mahshi is talking about is, he's talking about books which are bought for the purpose of selling, but then the person who is selling these books, he starts to use them as well for himself, right? So these books become for its own personal use and everything. So they stop being, his intention basically changes from stock and trade into possessing the book for himself. So in that capacity, if it was for stock and trade, then there would be zakat on it. If it is not for stock and trade, there would be no zakat. It will become part of hajat al-asliya, because he will be owning it, although the books for him may not be considered as hajat al-asliya in the sense that he doesn't need them to live. But if he is a person who is involved in this field, then it is most probably that he is using it for learning and teaching and things like that. Continuing further, he says mamlukin mulkan tamman. Mamlukin, where are we going from? Let's look at the previous sentence. So he said, هي لا تجب إلا في نصاب. Now here, after that is one part. حولي فاضلا نحن حاجته الأصلية. Keep this out. After the نصاب إلا في نصاب مملوك ملكا تاما. Right? So the nisab that we are talking about, the commodities that we are talking about, it had to be something that he has complete and full possession and ownership over it. أي رقبة ويدا, meaning not only that he owns, he possesses it, right? Not only that he has ownership over it, but he also has possession of it as well. Obviously, these two statements are used for the slaves. So, but it can apply to the other mamluk or other owned items as well. So when he is talking about these people, these slaves, he's talking like it must not be that he has half of it. So in other commodities, normally we do, as long as you have the possession wajadan with it, you have the possession, it's already in your ownership as well, right? So but when it comes to the slaves, actual slaves, that can change. It could be that you only have the possession of it, but you don't have the ownership over him at all, or it could be the other way. So that's why he's saying when we are going to be talking about calculating the zakat of these commodities, then you have to have this complete ownership. He's going to talk about that just a couple of lines down, right? So who will this become wajib upon? Ala hurrin mukallafin, upon a free person who is mukallaf of it. He has to carry it out. Ay aqilin, that he's aqil, he's sane person, he's not a majnoon. Baligh, he's a mature person, he's not a sabi. Muslimin, and he is a Muslim. Not non-Muslims have to give other jizyas and everything. فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى الْمَكَاتِبِ, and he makes tafriq of what he is referring to or what he wants to explain for saying mamlukin mulkan taman, like فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى الْمَكَاتِبِ, because makatib is kind of a slave who has gone into an agreement, in a contract with the owner that if I pay so much to you, then I am a free person. So and the owner, the master, has agreed now. So now his slavehoodness is broken. It's cut down. So although he is still under the possession of the person, he is in a contract where he is going to set free as soon as he pays the money. So he is going to lose the he is not owned by the master anymore. He is just under his possession now. He says فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى الْمَكَاتِبِ لِعَدْمِ الْمِلْكِ التَّامِ, because now he doesn't have the milk tam. فَإِنَّ لَهُ مِلْكِ الْيَدِ, because he does have the possession, لَا مِلْكِ الرَّقَبَةِ, but the master does not own his this slave entirely. He does not have his neck, he does not have his milkiyah. And similarly he says وَمَدْيُونٍ, this مَدْيُونٍ is coming فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى الْمَكَاتِبِ وَمَدْيُونٍ. So this is مَعْطُوف عَلَيْهِ over here, and this is being applied over here. فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى مَدْيُونٍ. It is and the zakat will not become wajib upon a person who is indebted, who is the gharim. He has to pay, but not every gharim. He explains further, mutalibin min jihatin, that he is being sought out for that debt from the other side. Okay, abdin min jihati abdin, and not the other side cannot be just any side. It has to be an abd. And this is an important point which we will clarify after 2 lines, inshallah. So he says biqadri daynihi, but only to the level of the dayn, right? لأن, why? لأن ملكه غير فاضل عن الحاجة الأصلية. Why? Because now he is indebted, right? And whatever wealth he has, he doesn't really own it, because he has to give it to somebody else who's asking for it. So for example, let's say I have $100 in my hand. I can say that I possess $100, I'm $100 rich. But if another person is standing next to me and says, you owe me $110, right? So you have this $100, I want this $100. Now in this claim, his claim is valid. I have to give him $100. Even though I have possession of $100 in my hand, I'm not $100 rich, because I'm $110 indebted as well. So I am $10 poor. Right? So لأن ملكه غير فاضل عن الحاجة الأصلية. Remember when we spoke about two types of حاجة الأصلية, that the halak and the destruction can be in two ways. In the one could be the hakiki, actual need, oxygen, food, and things like that, and similarly debts. This is the taqdiri or the hukmi حاجة الأصلي, right? So لأن الملكه غير فاضل عن الحاجة الأصلية وهي قضاء الدين, and that is paying off his debt. وإنما قيد بكونه مطالبا من عبد, and only reason why he mentioned over here, we underlined it, عبد. وإنما قيد بكونه مطالبا من عبد. The only reason why he has mentioned عبد in this matan is because sometimes it can happen that you are not being sought out for the debt from another person. Instead you are being asked for the debt from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, من عبد حتى لو كان مطالبا من الله لا يمنع وجوب الزكاة. A person is being sought out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pay off some debt. He had to pay Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala some debt. So that debt is not going to become a dispensation from calculation of zakat for him, right? He says kaman malaka nisaban, a person owns a nisab, ba'dahu mashghulun, but some of it is mashghul, is indebted bidainillah, with the dain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is kanadar, like he had vowed something, he had made an oath and he has to spend some amount in the parts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he cannot say like, oh, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala such and such, then my nisab actually comes down, so I don't have to become wajib for zakat. Oh, al-kafara, or will kafara, like the in case of kafara, that will also not necessitate. Or with zakat, or another zakat, his last year's zakat, he did not pay it out, so that is still dain on him. And so this year's, when he is calculating the zakat, he says like, oh, I already owe zakat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so I am actually a gharim, I am indebted, so I cannot, zakat is not wajib on me, so I will not calculate next zakat. No, that doesn't happen. Tajibu fiha zakah. In this case, because this is not mutalib min jihatil abd, zakat will be wajib over here. ولا يشترط لوجوب الزكاة فراغه عن هذا الدين, and it is not a condition that he should be free from this kind of dain towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this purpose, right? So next he says وقوله, and this statement بقدر دينه, let's bring this back here, بقدر دينه, and we talked about this بقدر دينه, right? This is also important here. Why? Because remember he said over here that فَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى مَدْيُونٍ. Okay. Now if we just look at that statement, if a person is indebted, right? Now let's assume فلا تجب على المكاتب فلا تجب على مديون مطالب من جهة العبد. If we just look at this statement, as long as a person has a debt to pay to some other person, right? لا تجب عليه زكاة. The zakat will not be wajib on him. No, that's not right. So he included this condition over here, بقدر دينه, that this بقدر دينه متعلق بقوله فلا تجب. Let me bring that again, just to make it clear, right? So right, فلا تجب is it's متعلق to فلا تجب, right? So فلا تجب بقدر دينه على مديون. أي لا تجب على المديون بقدر ما يكون ماله مشغولا بالدين. So what would that mean? If a person is indebted to somebody else, he has to pay somebody else the debt, then only that debt amount can be subtracted from his calculation for the zakat. He cannot say, oh, because I am indebted, I am a gharim, I need to pay, then the zakat is not wajib on me. Now, a person has $1,000 by him, but he owes $20 from it as a debt. So he cannot say, oh, because I have a debt to pay, automatically I am now excluded from calculating zakat. So this condition is important to show that no, you can only deduct that debt from it and not more. So alhamdulillah, we have completed about 1.5, almost 2 pages now. Only one line left. That's the matan for next time. This is good. I see that somebody has actually come up. Let's see who's here. Okay, mashallah. All right. Anyway, I have recorded the entire session, and inshallah this is how we're going to go about it, as long as we have some reader who can actually read and translate. If not, then I will do the reading as well as translation, and no question about mishkat over here. This is Sharh al Wiqaya, right? So you can send me on the WhatsApp, inshallah. Okay, do go over this. I've noticed something that Viz IQ, it takes a little bit of time to make the videos, right? So that will come about later on, but I will also try at the same time to make a normal regular video for this as well, so that I can just share it without having to use the Viz IQ model, inshallah. Okay, may Allah give us tawfiq to understand these ahkamat of zakat and to start calculating and everything. May Allah give us tawfiq. I'm recording, actually. I am recording, don't worry. All right. So yeah, and I will share it on the WhatsApp group. So don't worry about it, inshallah. May Allah give us tawfiq. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayh. Jazakallahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.